In the 80s, when the American Army retired the Colt 1911, it needed to select the best available pistol. Two of these pistols will win the tests set by the American Army. One DS was cheaper, the Beretta M9, which would soon become globally famous. The other, however, was preferred by many units, and this other pistol was the Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft 226. Hello everyone, I as always am Vlad Shoots History, and I know things about shooting. The Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft 226 is an iconic pistol, especially for its direct rivalry with the Beretta M9. And according to many, this was the pistol that was supposed to win. It was supposed to be chosen, but also because, along with its direct ancestor, the Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft 220 introduces a system. A small detail of an operating system that we find today in many different semi-automatic pistols. Let's go and discover the history of this weapon. First of all, Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft Sauer. Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft Sauer are two companies, or rather, they were two different companies. And this story, in fact, begins in two completely different places. One part of the story begins in Switzerland, and another part of the story begins in Germany. The Swiss had, for a very long time, since the 40s, adopted an excellent pistol. We're talking about the SIG 210, a design actually derived from a French model using a modified Browning system, also known as Browning Petter. The SIG 210, probably the best single-stack 9mm pistol ever made. Certainly many single-stack extraordinary shooters can confirm the exceptional capabilities and features of the Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft 210. In the 70s, however, the Swiss Army noticed that its 210s were old pistols. Many were produced in the 40s, despite the very high quality of production, and there was a need for something a little more modern. They were exceptional pistols and were and still are today very expensive to produce. They are entirely made of milled parts. It would also be something cheaper, lighter. At that time, however, in the Swiss house Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft, there was not a design ready to be developed for production. Sometimes firearm designers, to have a great firearm designer with a great idea, with a great design, time goes by. Think, for example, the same SIG. In those years, he collaborates with Beretta, for example, for what will become the R7090 on the Swiss side, the SIG 540. In short, companies collaborate with each other, and on the front of the pistols, the SIG will go to collaborate, to seek talent and seek design from a German company. The Sauer was a very old house in Suhl, the Gardone, Valtrompia, we could say, of Germany, which had a design especially regarding the firing mechanism very interesting. This design was the Sauer 38H, among other things, a design that we have already seen and dealt with. So, if you click in the top right corner, you can retrieve this video in that era that was very much in fashion. The double and single action, so a pistol that could fire in double, like clearly this one here, but also in single action. It was seen as a very smart way to be able to carry the weapon with a round in the chamber, but very safe. Taking this trigger mechanism, along with some features of the SIG 210, a new system was created to particularly lighten the SIG 210. A different solution was sought for the Browning system. One of the features of the Browning system is that in front of the cartridge chamber it has a series of locking lugs with corresponding notches in the slide. This makes the slide at that point very thick, and the barrel has these additional works that cost time and material. However, technology had moved forward, particularly metallurgy technology, and SIG's great invention was to exploit the ejection window. They didn't invent it because the first to do it, in fact, were the English with the old Webley automatic pistol in .45 Webley. But what SIG did with its 220 is to use the ejection window as a locking tenon. Now, to us, it seems like a crazy nonsense, because almost all modern pistols work in this way. They oscillate the barrel and close in the ejection window. Think, for example, the Glocks. SIG invented it, SIG really invented it. For the SIG 220, the one that will be adopted towards the end of the 70s as SIG 220, which is also known as the SIG system. Sauer, however, the SIG 220 we noticed was a single stack pistol, still had enough magazine capacity, but it was the single stack pistol that still didn't have the capacity. of the B rows, and instead the Americans absolutely wanted for the XM9 tests a B row pistol. And so with the 226 simply, the frame will be widened a bit to accept B row magazines for this test. In short, a pistol with both old technology, but also very interesting from the 30s, but with a very innovative solution regarding the closure. So let's take a closer look at the details of the weapon to the untrained eye. The SIG 226 could be presented as one of the many people in the market. But let's look at some features, remembering that they were also very innovative. First of all, the writings on the weapon, which denote its model, with obviously the brand that produced them. On the other side, we see information about the manufacturer, weapon caliber, and serial number. All the weapons controls are present on the left side. This weapon is from the 80s, a time when they still denied left-handed people existed. No, jokes aside, ergonomics has made giant strides in the last 40 years. Especially for shooters who maybe they simply use the other hand. We find the disassembly lever. How exactly does it work? We'll get there soon. We'll find the cane beater here too. Now let's take a look at how this lever works, which at this moment does absolutely nothing. And we'll also find the weapon's hold open. With this button, moreover, you can remove the magazine, which, as we said, is a double stack magazine, unlike the Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft 220, from which this weapon derives. Pulling back the slide, we can notice the activation of the hold open, which, as you see, engages a specific notch in the slide. Pushing it down, we can close the slide. In this position, we can also cock the weapon's hammer, which is obviously clearly armed. And by pushing down the hammer spur and releasing it, the hammer will be struck, so we push it down. As you see, you heard a click that disconnected the trigger at this moment, but it still hasn't released the hammer. And as you see, at this moment, the hammer is struck. It's not completely struck, as you see. It clearly doesn't touch the firing pin, but we have a long double action for the shot. We'll see this detail a little better when we go to test the weapon shortly. The right side, as we've seen, is almost entirely free of controls. We have the inscriptions. We only have enough, evidently the extractor. I want to emphasize how much this gun is a product of its time. In the sense today, we have more or less an idea of what a gun should have, what a gun should not have when this gun comes out. In the 80s, the years of the 1-9, and this is one of the very first double stack 9mm pistols. You know what? Honestly, in some ways, one of those, especially in terms of the most modern ergonomics, more modern than all, it has the appearance of a modern pistol. And it's not a coincidence, Among virulettes, this is my very personal observation. How does the disassembly work? Obviously, we have removed the magazine. Obviously, if you are doing it at home, maybe following my instructions, we check that the weapon is unloaded. At this point, we can retract the slide until it remains in hold open. Rotate the lever that allows disassembly. Among other things, the modern SIGs also disassemble in this way. The 320s, but many other guns have this exact disassembly procedure, especially those released in recent years. We take the slide, release the hold open. We can slide the slide and barrel and the whole group forward, thus leaving the gun frame separated. Then we can go to remove the recoil spring with its guide rod, and we can go to remove the gun barrel. Field disassembly is very simple. From this point of view, the frame is very light in light alloy. Here is a slightly more modern version of the grip. For this reason, in the latest versions produced, the grips can therefore vary, especially in the older models. However, the frame is surprisingly light and features a large insert designed for the system. Now it is no longer perhaps the Browning system properly speaking, but the SIG system, Sauer, and obviously the trigger system is present. The trigger system, as we discussed, derives quite directly from the Sauer. A pistol that, as reiterated, we have already seen on the channel, so definitely go back to that video if you are interested in this detail. Now let's take a slightly better look at how the barrel works compared to the slide, and remember how innovative this thing is. Think about this. How many modern weapons do you know with a swinging barrel that close into the slide, using the slide itself as the closure tenon? Unlike the classic Colt Brown system. Well, this system, known precisely as the SIG Sauer system, was born with the direct predecessor of this weapon, the SIG 220, so the single wire version. Before this, very simple as an idea, solution, you had to mill away more than one multiple closure tenons to withstand the pressure of the 9 mm. This was one of the big steps forward that was made in technology. The 220 and then the 226. It was mainly spread thanks to technological advancements in the metallurgy of weapon construction. It will spread what we remember in the SIG Sauer system, or simply the Browning system, but with the barrel closure in the ejection window. They didn't invent this thing in the strict sense, because the good old English Webley automatic from the First World War did this thing, however without the Browning system and with a decidedly different ammunition. Apart from this, as you can see, there is not much else to discuss. Let's do one thing, so we can finally simply reassemble it. Let's put the barrel in its place, put the recoil spring back where it belongs, so we can put it together. Here we are. Pull back, put even further back, put the old open. Hold that cart because it might fly off. We turn the block that holds it and the weapon is ready to use. What can I say? Let's go try it out. Perfect. We can finally test the SIG 226. We have clearly full magazines. We can, like in any gun of this type, insert the magazine all the way in, rack the weapon, and let's try a few shots. Okay, the trigger surprised me for a moment because it has a relatively long reset, at least for what I'm used to. Let me try another magazine. Let's shoot it at the far plate, the one almost 50 meters away, just to appreciate this feature a bit better. So if you see the plate, the reset is quite long and specific. It's still part of the mechanism that allows the weapon to function in double and single action. There's a very interesting thing. Now let's reload and try again. But many people, when they go to evaluate the characteristics of the weapon on paper, in my opinion, they make a lot of mental fuss. What do I mean when you don't have a weapon in hand that is going to fire? Some characteristics are hard to evaluate. So what? You see the trigger weight, the weight of the weapon. You see the length of the barrel. I often tell you, no, Vlad, but you didn't mention the weight of the weapon because honestly, I don't care. I mean, I see the weapon from a purely practical point of view. Then the small numbers that one can study on Wikipedia and other pages interest me relatively little. All this to say that paper experts often tell how Ms. 226 has an extremely high barrel compared to the grip and how it's fundamental for good recoil management. To have the barrel as low as possible compared to the grip. Now, honestly, maybe it helps a little to see the latest guns like the Eco, the Logo Alien, which I always mention. Honestly, the ergonomics of the weapon make this thing that the fact that the barrel is relatively high compared to the competition is completely irrelevant. It shoots well and is manageable. Let's reload and try again. I want to try the double action now, because having a weapon that fires in both double and single action doesn't make much sense if you don't actually use the double action. As we've already mentioned, this is a weapon that competed with the Beretta M9 for American adoption. And one of the ways, especially very popular in the 80s, of thinking about the weapon for carrying, with the round in the chamber of course, was to take advantage of the double and single action. With modern, let's say, striker-fired pistols, we're kind of moving away from this idea at the moment. However, the double and single action was absolutely popular at the time. So how do we use it? We have the gun cocked, so the weapon in single action, we go to uncock the gun. This mechanism that we have already seen, if you remember, with the Sauer 38. And we should have a long run of the damn action. How long is it? Let's try again to make it work. Let's try again, then it's very long. It's very long, I dare say longer than the competition. Beretta 90 series. For heaven's sake, it's just a dubbing. I don't expect much from the weapon dub. It might just need some practice. There's a reset that distracts me. We are drained. Among other things, where even the owner of the weapon pointed out to me in the aftermarket. Because clearly, once a company makes a popular gun, there are another 20 companies on the market that participate by producing alternative parts. One of the things that is regularly modified and changed in the 226 is precisely the trigger, even in the 220 that precedes it. In particular, this very long reset that the double action is long and bearable. What I might change is the reset. Let's talk instead about the perhaps positive things about this weapon, which I like very much. I will compare it. But I am talking often in this video, the Beretta Series 90, because it was the direct competition. There are two pistols that have competed on the international and military market. Ergonomics. This is a truly exceptional ergonomic pistol visually. As we said, it's very high above the weapon, but it has excellent sights. And it aims in a really very natural way. The hand rests perfectly here on the grip, and there's really nothing to point out about this. You have to get used to the position of the hold open a bit. Sorry, the hold open is a little further back than usual compared to the vast majority of weapons. Here it is, where there is the lever to lower the hammer, usually here the weapons find the old open. This is a little further back, which still requires you to go and find it. I take my thumb back and I found that, at least with my grip, sometimes I tend to maybe touch it a little bit, keep a thumb a little too far back and touch it. Nothing that a bit of practice and correct technique can't solve. So, from this point of view, it might be a little different from the guns you usually find. Let's try another magazine, maybe a little faster. In fact, I held it tight to try to control it as much as possible. It's not, don't go to old open, but this is me who is a dog. on certain things. Don't always trust what I say, what I do. No, I'm kidding. And I repeat to the high axis of the barrel, which should be a terrible flaw according to some web paper experts, instead very, very controllable. I have the impression that the cart is relatively light, just like weight. This perhaps is an impression. Because remember that often it's also a matter of how the springs work, how the weight is distributed, which contributes a lot to the control. You don't usually feel all of this in the weapons. You feel all this mass that slams back when the slide comes back. While it goes smoothly, it reaches the end of the stroke very gently and comes forward very gently. In this very particular closing movement, this movement that we reload and try again, let's see the sights. The sights are beautiful. But I'm taking it. No, okay.
Strange. Oh, well.
It's going a bit down, huh?
You think? Is he tearing it up?
I'm tearing it up, but it's spinning a bit low. Cover it well. Now you're level, but it was on the side.
Ah, okay. Now I understand. Let's try the door frame.
Leave it. I have to leave it. Yes.
So now you go in double. Oh my God. Okay, let's try again. Okay, a bit fast. Detail that.
What's so special? No.
I'm really not comfortable with my hand.
You say this isn't a gun for left-handed people. No, usually you don't because of how much space. No.
But I'm not saying it's a bad gun. It's well made and has little recoil.
Yes, surprisingly.
A little, though.
It's not a gun for Mancini.
But it's not a gun for Mancini. Especially for all the movements I would make. I can't...
Do it! The hold open is far back, and it's even harder for left-handed people.
What's terrible is that if I go to touch the hold open like this, I have to break the whole grip of the gun.
Yes, apparently so.
So I take it loaded. And then what do I do with it? Like this.
The other hand, can I do?
Like this with the thumb, but the grip's broken.
Or I can
do this still. Worse. I'm sorry.
The left-handed is the only solution, already suggested many times by the Holy Roman Church and the nuns with the elementary schools. Tying the hands of the left-handed is a sin. I would like...
Exactly what I would like.
Exactly, you like it, but you can't like it. Fair enough. Okay. Cycles really well, goes really well. I like it. You know what else? I like that you have to put under this video, because thanks to everyone for watching it. As always, remember that you make these videos you. As the owner of this weapon who came here today to the surf field of Spessa to let me try it. Without the contribution of passionate collectors like you, doing what I do would really be impossible. If you want to contribute directly, maybe without weapons, but helping me pay for the field. Since running a YouTube channel with weapons is expensive, you make almost nothing. Consider, for example, subscribing or purchasing. The t-shirts really help immensely. I'm not just saying that. If you want, you can leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. This is completely free. You can always unsubscribe. When will it offend your favorite weapon? And to me, as a creator, it really pleases me a lot. There's a huge lizard. Look how big it is. Look how big it is. It's been seen. It's green. I hope it's been seen. I hope it's been seen. Look how big it is compared to the SIG 226 from me, from the SIG. 226 from the lizard that came to visit us all. We, as always, see you next time.